Hello on a Whim listeners, and welcome to episode 10 of season 2 of the On the Whim podcast. I am Paul Vella. I am one of your co-hosts, and I'm normally joined by Jabari Lewis Smith, but as we covered in the previous episode, he is on hiatus. But don't worry, he's still behind the scenes, still making sure our podcast is posted on a timely manner. So don't worry, he's still around. But today, I am joined by someone who you're familiar with. He has been a co-host before. He requires no introduction.
Okay. Oh, I'm gonna need an introduction. I'm gonna need quite a bit of. Who the heck is this Grover guy? What kind of freakish name is that?
Yeah, that is a good story right there. What kind of freakish name is that? Would you want to go into that story a little bit?
No, well, introduce me first. I guess.
I mean, you've kind of introduced yourself already, but this is
Hi.
Grover Wimberly the Fourth. Yes, hi. But go ahead, Grover. Go ahead and tell that story.
Well, sure. Yeah, just for those.
What kind of freakish name is that story?
But for those just coming in and listening in, I'm the producer and director at Whim Indie, and I do a lot of the game development stuff, and I'm filling in for Jabs. So I'm not sure if the episodes are going to be going in order, or are you just going to fill me in wherever I'm needed? I'm not sure. Well,
I mean, I did say it was episode 10.
Yeah. So for sure this is episode 10 then. But yeah, that story. We were at a where were we? Red Robin.
Yes,
right?
We were at Red Robin. And
I had reserved the party for 4 or 5 people for all of us coming in after the studio. And then they're like, Grover, party at 5, Grover. And then this group outside of the thing is like, Grover, what kind of freakish name is that? As I'm walking right past them. and you guys all laughed. You laughed, Matt laughed, Red Robin laughed. It was a good time.
And you died a little bit on the inside.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, Grover, it's good to have you here. Thanks for filling in. I'm glad you're here because it saves the audience from having to just listen to me ranting to myself for an hour, because I don't think they want to listen to that at all. So, Grover, tell me, are the rumors true? Is Selatria wrapping up? Is it coming to an end?
Yes. The rumors. We want to open up alpha testing for Selatria in the very near future, and I know we've opened up applications for it. We're gonna start off with doing alpha testing for Chapter 4. Get some feedback on the difficulty of the game. We've been kind of holding it to ourselves for a while. We wanted to show off Chapter 4 to conventions this year, but that's not going to happen, right?
No way. Nope.
So we had to figure out a way in the studio to where we could kind of open it up to anybody. So we're learning the ins and outs of Steam alpha and beta testing, and we're gonna try to get in as many players that are interested in playing through Steam, and go from there. As for wrapping it up, you know what they say about an artist's work, it's never finished. There's a lot of things that, and this will probably be a future episode probably where I'll talk about a lot of the things I wish I've changed. But
I mean, aren't you going to still write a book about that?
Yeah. At first I wanted to write a book. And then that was I feel like if I write a book on Selatria, it's going to take as long as finishing the game itself. It'll be another 11 years. So what I'm thinking of doing is doing a bunch of Gama Sutra articles and a bunch of blog entries on the development of Selatria and like a bunch of like smaller parts. And then at the end, compile that all into a book, right? Like here's all my different articles on what happened and where things went wrong. But as for releasing the game, yeah, we're doing we're going over some of the last cutscenes of the game, and then we're actually in the next couple of weeks we're going to be doing the cutscenes with the ending and the final boss. But after that, we want to kind of tie all the dungeons together, because there's a lot of dungeons where the only parts of the dungeons that are done are the parts that have the cutscenes in them. So we need to kind of do the floors in between, just to connect everything together. And then once we do that, we'll go into testing, beta testing. And then after that, that should be it for Selatria. But I want to get done with this as quickly as I can. But you never know, Paul. You never know. Would
it be safe to say that you're nervously excited about this coming to an end?
Yeah. You remember when you were in college, right? And it's like, I'm glad that this is done, but what's going to happen next? That's kind of how I'm feeling. You're excited to be over with it, but then it's like, okay, well, what do I do now? What do I do with my Saturdays? What do I do? You don't have that consistent project to fall back on. You got, there's something new that you have to do. There's something different that you have to move on to. And I'm excited to try out things that I just, I've always said, oh yeah, when Selatria is done, I'll do that. When Selatria is done, I'll take this class. When Selatria is done, I'll learn this skill. And I don't want to say Selatria has held me back. I'm sorry?
What excuse will you have now?
Yeah, exactly.
What will Grover do?
There really is no excuse. There's a lot of skills and game engines that I wanted to learn. Everybody who's coming out of school, they like Unity this, Unity that, and I wanted to learn some more Unity. I built a small visual novel in Unity, but I want to expand my skills on that. And I also want to learn Game Maker Studio 2. That's my personal favorite engine. So I want to maybe make some small games in that. They might not necessarily be commercial games, but if I see something that I like enough that I feel like I want to make a commercial game, you guys will be the first to know.
I mean, we have made official announcements on the On the Whim podcast, which I want to remind the listeners debuts every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific time. And I have to emphasize that Pacific time, specifically Pacific time, because if not, Grover will correct me.
Every episode I listen to you guys and you're like, it's going live at 8 p.m. I'm like, yeah, tell that to the East Coast users. Why did this get posted till 11?
Right. So Grover, let me ask you this. Where does that come from, that being a stickler for making sure you specify Pacific versus Mountain, Central Time, Romanian time?
Yeah. A part of it comes from my day job. Because when I worked for Firefox, I had to deal with a lot of team members that worked out of Romania. And when it was 7:30 our time, it would be 5:30 their time. So when we would have our daily calls, we're just getting up and they're just about to leave. They're about to go home. And there was a difference in daylight savings between our country and Romania's. Romania's theirs would go into effect a couple of weeks after ours. So there would be one time where it's like, okay, I'll see you at 5:30. I was like, okay, is this 5:30 your time? Is this 5:30 with the daylight savings? I have no idea. Speaking of which, I think daylight savings is ending tomorrow.
Just for context listeners, we are recording this
by the time this episode goes live.
The day before daylight savings time springs forward.
It's already sprung forward, but yeah. But yeah. So when I was dealing with that, there was a lot of like, okay, they shifted their times? Have we shifted our times? What time zone is it here? What time zone is it there? And it was just and then now I work for a banking software for my day job, and a lot of the team is on East Coast time. So when they always say, okay, you're going to be there for the software deployment at 9 p.m. And at first I'm panicking, and I realize, oh, okay, that's 6 p.m. my time. Okay.
Yeah, your mind immediately goes to like, oh, I have to be up in the middle of the
middle
night.
Of night for them.
But it's the middle of the night for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, not for you.
Not for me.
Right.
Yeah. So
just out of curiosity, because you do point that out and point out my mistakes when I omit the time zone, right? And I purposely omit
that
daylight savings time. Yeah.
Yeah, PDT
or daylight savings time, right?
PST,
so I purposely omit that.
We're about to go into, well, at least for our specific time zone, we're about to go into PD. We're about to go into PDT, and it won't be PST.
I just don't even bother with the D and the S.
Yeah, you just say you're gonna do PT and like it.
You understand, yeah.
Yeah.
So back to Selatria really quick.
Oh yeah.
We're getting ready to finish that up. We're getting ready to release it.
Right.
Drop kicked the little baby bird out of the nest, literally, and
right.
I was talking with Grover actually as we're coming up to release, just trying to get some more attention to it. I know me and Jabari have had discussions in the past about marketing and getting hype up for a game. And one of the thoughts I had to just garner some hype was generate a tier list, like an S through F tier list, right? Like in Smash Brothers, where you have the S tier, which are the best characters for whatever reason, whether it's the reach or the recovery. And then there's this F tier that just, these are characters that are either gimmicks or they're fan service characters or something, right? So they're just not good. So,
that's right.
When I told Grover about this idea, Grover,
I put a stop to that.
Grover disagreed with my idea.
Yeah.
Not to say that he stopped me from doing it, but he just told me he did not support it. So I wanted to get your thoughts, Grover, on why are you against these tier lists?
Yeah, you're like, let's discuss this in the show.
Yeah, let's discuss
exactly.
This is the time to discuss
I have a lot to say.
I'm looking forward to hearing this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so kind of going into it, metagaming, right? That's kind of what we're going to be talking about. And I actually looked up the definition of metagaming because this kind of talks about tier lists and everything. If you were interested in hearing the definition.
Yeah. Tell the listeners so they have the idea of the definition.
Okay, yeah. So metagaming is using an approach to a game that transcends or operates outside of the prescribed rules of the game. It uses external factors to affect the game or goes beyond the supposed limits or environment set by the game. And I think tier lists kind of fall into that because I don't, coming from a developer's perspective, I personally don't think that the developer goes in and be like, okay, I'm going to make sure this character sucks. I'm going to make sure this character is just bad and, is in this bottom tier, right? And this happens a lot in fighting games, right? They're like, okay, Super Smash Brothers Brawl, right? That was one of the first games I've heard about tier lists. Because everybody put Meta Knight on this super high S tier thing because like his attacks always superseded everybody else's when it comes to like conflicts and whatnot. And a person who can play Meta Knight in Brawl was just better than anybody else because of that, the way the game was programmed. But I don't. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it was a broken character.
He was the broken character. But I don't think to me it's almost insulting when you say, "Hey, developer, what do you think of these characters or these things that you created, and where would you rank them?" And then you're forced to like get an answer like, "Oh, okay, this is the best character. This is the least the least favorite character." It's like saying, it's like having children, and it's like, okay, which kid is your favorite? In a perfect world, you'd say, I love all my kids the same, but to me, it's like that, that's, I can't answer that question. I made all the characters. I like them all. But, there are exceptions to this rule. The main one that comes to mind is Dan from Street Fighter. Have you played Street Fighter, Paul?
I kind of played Street Fighter, but I know the story of Dan.
Yeah. So Dan is a character that's like he's very arrogant, right? He does a lot of taunts in his move sets and whatnot, and he is designed to be a weak character, but he's supposed to be one of those characters like, okay, if you don't know how to play the game or something, and somebody who's really skilled does kick your butt as Dan, then they can kind of gloat and say, hey, I beat you as Dan. You really need to learn how to play this game. You know what I mean? So Dan was treated like this joke character. He's not supposed to be played competitively, but if he is, that's like, okay, wow, you got schooled by Dan. So that's my only exception to tier list there. I don't believe in making tier lists as a developer. I believe that should be left to the players. The players should, it is important for players who like to do metagaming to come up with these lists and whatnot to find out, who's the best character and who the worst character is. And it's the developer job to take a look at that tier list and say like, okay, why is he in the F tier? What can we do to make him or her a better character? Him, her, them, a better character.
So the only point of comparison that I have of tier lists is where the community has developed a list is Mass Effect, which has a party system. And similar to Selatria, right? We have a party system, different classes. We have our tank, we have our DPS, we have a healer, right? And my thinking behind making this ranking tier list is what party would I run, right?
Right.
And I always joke around with Lewis because I personally would put him in the F tier in early game because he requires just so much setup for even the chance of casting a spell, right? His class is called Geezer for a reason. And I feel like he's almost a gimmick character. Was that what we were going for? Because I remember when we first were thinking of that character, it was based on the old man in Viridian City who...
Correct.
Yeah.
So Lewis was inspired by a variety of different characters. You are right. One of those inspirations was the old coffee man in Viridian City who would block your way. He's like, I haven't had my coffee, but I can teach you how to catch Pokemon. That was one of the inspirations. The second inspiration was a character from Final Fantasy IV. His name was Tella, and Tella was an old sage who forgot how to use spells, and he would constantly forget how to use spells. But when he did remember them, they were super, super powerful. And in Final Fantasy IV, it's a bit of a spoiler. He's only a temporary character. As soon as he remembers the spell that he's been questing to get, he dies. And then that's it, right? He doesn't come back for the rest of the game. And originally Lewis was going to be that. He was only going to join in for that part of the game, and that was it. After that section of the game was done, he was going to go back and live his life while the main, Mage and Melanie and number 16 went on to do the rest of the thing. But I had liked the lines that we wrote for him, and especially after we casted River Kane off as the voice of Lewis, I really liked how that character was portrayed and the way we programmed him for getting spells. I was like, yep, let's make him a character for the rest of the game.
I agree. River was an exceptional casting choice for that role. Yeah,
it was funny. I don't know if River's gonna listen to it. I didn't choose River. I wanted. There was another voice actor, and he sounded way more frail. But most of you guys chose River. The team did, and that ended up to be the best choice, especially for the rest of the game. So my choice as director was wrong on that one. River was the best choice, even though I didn't pick him.
So with Selatria coming to an end, those kind of decisions start coming up on you, sneaking up on you, that, Selatria has been in X amount of time of development. Those, have those kind of thoughts start creeping in, those second guessing yourself. What if I made this kind of decision versus this kind of decision?
No, I haven't had I'm going to call that the Zack Snyder moment. you know where I'm going from there. It's like, oh yeah, you released Justice League. This is not what I wanted at all. There's some things that I was really against, but we ended up going with it anyway. Like I wanted number 16 to be like a cutesy assassin, but I in the end, I think the decisions that the team overruled me on were the better decisions. And I mentioned this multiple times too. If the game was purely my vision and nobody else's, the game would have sucked.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a lot of things that, I feel like I made my input wins with like the team attack battle system and stuff, and there's some complete misses that I had too, like the reserve points. A lot of people are very confused by that, but game development, it's a team effort, and I think that a lot of there's really no regrets on like, oh, I should have done it this way or I should have done it this way, but I will apply a lot of these learned lessons to the next game, whatever that may be.
So when it's community generated, either led by me or anybody else, what party members fit into the S tier or whatever, right? How would you feel about that? How would you feel about the community creating something like that? Would you be one of those developers that would give input when that's made?
When it comes to things like that, I think it's best for us to kind of, we're always watching and we're always reading what people have to say about that kind of stuff. It's important. Like I said, I don't think tier lists should be removed. I just don't think that developers should have a say in what the tier lists are. When players come up with it, when dedicated hardcore metagamers come up with tier lists, that's for the developers to go in and kind of take a look at it. It's like, okay, they put this guy in F tier. Why is this person in F tier? What can we do to make the higher characters worse or the worse characters better? And my philosophy goes along with Naoki Yoshida's philosophy, who's the director of Final Fantasy XIV. Whenever he sees something that's kind of broken, in most cases, he won't make the powerful classes weaker. He'll always make the weaker classes stronger, right? He wants to keep the elements that are fun for the people who like playing the ones that are in the higher tier, but the ones that are in the lower tier, he's like, okay, a lot of people don't like playing this. A lot of people don't like playing this character. What can we do to make this better? And they put a lot of work and love into either reworking that character or buffing that character or changing that character's movesets or abilities to make it so that people would like to play that character, and that character is more balanced with the other ones.
That makes sense. So
yeah,
you wouldn't be the kind of developer to give input, but you are okay with the community generating, because it has happened before. I know members of the community have created walkthroughs for various sections of the game.
Right way to do.
I remember there's one part where they wrote their way of beating a boss.
Right. That's a really good point. One of the good examples of this was the final boss of Chapter 2, when you're fighting against one of the commanders of the Doctrine Empire, and you're fighting this cannon that's going to go off in 5 turns. And the accepted strategy, as spoiler alert, as developers, we were designing the fight to be completable at level 23 or 24-ish. And then we gave some extra abilities at level 26 to certain characters if you're really, really having trouble, to help you kind of really go ahead and kind of guide it along. But some players were adamant into leveling up to like level 39, level 40, almost twice the level that you needed to be to beat the thing. And they did it in the reverse order. And they're like, oh, I'm having trouble. Oh yeah, just grind 20 levels and beat this boss first and then beat the other one. And so what we did was, while keeping that existing strategy valid, right? So that the strategy isn't timeless, or it is timeless. We went and made it so that we put it more in line of how we wanted it to be played, and gave hints and suggestions on how to do that. I think the boss was tuned a little bit too high for the player, so we had to make it a little bit easier. But, if they want to grind up to level 40, they can still do it that way. But, it's not the efficient way to do it anymore.
No. Yeah, I could not imagine grinding to level 40 to beat that boss. But then again, I have beaten the game as it is right now. And I remember trying to avoid letting you all know on the dev team when I was playing through it. And I, just for the record, I played chapters 1, 2, and 3, which is officially called Selatria, the Advent of the Doctrine Empire, which, listeners, is available for sale on Steam.
Just Steam right
just
now.
Steam.
We took the itch.io off while we're reworking the page, but yeah, it's still available on Steam.
So yeah, shameless plug. If this sounds interesting, give it a try. But when I was playing it, I made sure, like I said, I made sure not to let the dev team know what was going on. And whenever you guys were talking about tweaking something, or I would subtly drop my experience in, right? And Grover and the team would just look at me and like, Paul, oh, look at you paying attention for once.
Mm-hmm.
And unbeknownst to them, I was actually playing through the game. So I know what their ideas were and what were they coming from the developer side of things.
That was probably the best thing to do, Paul, because our development team has a tendency to backseat game a lot. And that was probably best that you kind of played it in secret and told us later on, oh yeah, I played that boss. Yeah. We've stopped backseat gaming as much. I know we were watching a stream the other day of Lucia Snake, right? She was on the Whim Discord, and she was giving us a lot of feedback. And I do my best to be. She's like, "What do I do? Where do I go?" I'm like, use the game hints to figure it out. There'd be some times where it's like, "Do you want a hint?" And I'll give them the hint if she really wants it. But most times I just try not to backseat game and just like silently write down a lot of notes and report them as bugs and stuff that me, John, and Matt will fix later.
Yeah. Lucia Snake has a very strong affinity for Matt.
She always goes, Matt, why did you do this? Who designed this dungeon? Who designed this?
She went on a good rant during one of her streams, just talking about how our characters break the fourth wall and just how these certain ways to exploit the system and whatever. And she just says, but I love it. So
Selatria was developed in an environment that I don't think we'll be able to replicate again because of the way our lives have become, right? They're more structured and rigid. When we started Selatria, there was no hack and plan. There was no task management software. There was no, Slack or anything like that. We were just like, okay, we're just going to work on this. It didn't matter what we were working on. It could be something completely different. And we came up with a lot of our most creative work then. But, real life hit and we really had to kind of hunker down. Because if we had continued going down that way, the game would never be finished, ever be finished.
So listener, just envision a section of a wall that's maybe a section 16 by 9 square foot section, just covered in sticky notes.
Oh yeah, remember that?
Yeah, I totally remember that. But that was our software tracking for that.
Yeah, or for the more software engineers and in the audience, like Trello. We use Hack and Plan, which is very similar to that. It's like a Kanban virtual post-it note system. But yeah, before that, we just had little post-it notes placed everywhere. I had like yellow notebooks of crossed out things that I would lose and find. Fun fact, Spellbearers, like Spellbearer was one of the rejected name for one of the classes we were going to have for Selatria. And I just found it, like when we were cleaning up the studio, I found the name Spellbearer.
I was there
in one of like those post-it notes. And we're like, Jared, that's the name of the game, Spellbearers. And he loved it too. So yeah, it was funny.
It's funny how far we've come as a studio, right? From sticky notes to more rigid and structured environments. The only time I can envision us going back to that free form is only during planning and pre-production.
Brainstorm.
Yeah, brainstorming.
Mm-hmm. Where anything goes phase.
Whim Indie has been known to have days where we have the contributors come in and we buy food and we play games together.
In the before times.
Yes.
In the before times.
Yes, in the before time.
Yeah.
Before the COVID. Which is if the 1 year, this is the 1 year anniversary when this podcast is being recorded. It's crazy to think about, but in the before time, we would bring all these contributors together. We would play video games together for science. And as the day's coming to a close, we would all come together and report our findings, right? What did you enjoy? What didn't you enjoy? And I think that would be the closest when we do go back to normal post-COVID. I think the freeform way of how we used to do design, that collaboration time.
Right.
So we mentioned earlier metagaming.
Right.
And I think the majority of listeners and myself was our first encounter of metagaming has to be either Mario Kart or Pokemon.
I was just going to ask you what it was. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Pokemon maybe to a little bit more of an extent.
Yeah.
I still remember. I mentioned, we mentioned this before. Me and Grover have been friends since high school.
Yeah. About 2004, I think.
Yeah. I think I met you 0405.
Yeah.
I remember we would have our Nintendo DSs and we would play Mario Kart at lunchtime every day and trying to beat Matt. And for the listener, we might not have we've mentioned Matt before. Matthew Estrada is one of the 4 co-owners of Whim Indie. So it's myself, we got Grover here, Jabari, and then Matt.
Yeah, he's also the guy that Whoosh and Snake curses out.
Yeah, that for context sake, right? Yeah.
yeah, and that we were just talking about in the stream, yeah.
So, Matt, I want to say, if not the best, one of the best persons I've ever raced against in Mario Kart.
He's one of the best gamers I know.
Yeah, one of the best gamers, period.
Yeah.
Whenever when we were doing still in-person podcasting, me and Jabari were talking about Matt's just dominance, right? Because it would take several seconds, maybe even a minute, for once Matt crossed the finish line, for second place to cross the finish line.
And we were like, how did we do it? Like, is he cheating? Like, what is he doing to be so far ahead of everybody else every single time? Like, I would yell that, oh, he's hacking, hack. And I was like, I just did not understand how he could be so far ahead of everybody else, like to a point where like sometimes he would even overlap us.
Yep.
Like, and it's like, it couldn't be the character. It couldn't be the car. Like, what was he doing? What was he doing to be so good at Mario Kart? Right. And so, I went home and I Googled it and, it's like, how is this happening? What's going on? And it's like, oh, he's snaking. Like, snaking? What is that? I had no idea. And snaking in Mario Kart, it's where you deliberately hold the R button and press left and right repeatedly to go back and forth in order to get draft boost. I think that's the term, right? And what Matt was doing was that he would go left and right on a straight. I think the game designers planned it so that you would do this on turns, right? So you can bank those turns and get a speed boost. But he was doing it on a straight track, so he would just go left and right on straight track, going back and forth, getting those speed boosts. So it's like, okay. So I spent a good weekend practicing on Mario Kart DS so I can do it. And there was only one car I could pull this off on. Like, it was designed to be pulled off using Yoshi and the tank. That was the best. That was that meta combination, right? Yoshi, tank, and then you snake. You get the best amount of speed boost on the, with the fastest car, with the character who can do it the best. But the only character I can pull this off on was Toad and the cucumber car.
I remember.
And it wasn't anywhere near as fast as the tank, but I wasn't getting overlapped anymore. And but I was able to kind of hold my own. There would be sometimes I would be in second, and I was like, why did Matt? I would be right behind Matt, and he would just put on the brakes, right? He would slam the brakes. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe he gave up. Nope, a blue shell is coming and it hits me instead. Yeah, second, third, fourth. There's Paul. There's Neil. 1, 2, 3. There's Gino. And then I finally get control of my character again.
Yeah, Matt. I remember one time Matt slowed down, and I stopped because I knew the blue shell trick, and he backed up into me. I did not see that coming. Yeah, Matt was always one step ahead of us, and that was always the trend.
Yeah, it was a race for. We called it the race for second.
It was the race for second. Yeah.
And even though we figured out, all of us figured out how to snake, all of us, but it was still just not good enough to beat Matt. And so we just, we had fun, race for second, and it was just always a given that, Matt would get first. And that was that. Another thing I wanted to talk about was, you mentioned Pokemon earlier, right? Up until
that the Pokemon would be one of the more thorough, more detailed metagaming structures, right?
Right. So
Ivs, Evs. I remember there was an NPC in a random town in Ruby Sapphire that would tell you the traits of your Pokemon. Well, your Pokemon's average or it's exceptional. And at the age of 14, 15, it didn't dawn on me that he was telling me my Pokemon's metagaming qualities, right?
Right. So, you guys got into Pokemon before I did. I played Red, Blue, and Yellow when they came out. Yellow was the first game I ever pre-ordered, and that was memorable to me because that was the last game my mom bought me before she passed away. And then I played Gold and Silver. My dad dealt a lot of business in Japan, so I got an imported Gold and Silver before anybody else did. I didn't know what it was, but I used Cerebi.net way back in the 90s to figure out where to go and what to do. I couldn't read a lick of Japanese. And then I got the American Gold version, and I played the heck out of that too. And then when I got into 6th grade, they're like, okay, Pokemon's not cool anymore. Haha, you're playing Pokemon. So I stopped playing. And fast forward, I got back into it 2007, early 2008. It was after Diamond and Pearl came out, but I went and got Diamond and Pearl. And I was like, okay, I'll beat Matt. I was just playing with this old school mentality from Gold and Silver. There was none of these extra values. There was just your Pokemon are this strong, and that's it. And I'll fight Matt, and Matt's like, okay, bring it on. I'm like, okay, I got the best Pokemon. I got my legendaries, blah blah blah, and even my legendaries were getting their butt kicked by Matt's just normal regular Pokemon. And I'm like, how is this, just like Mario Kart, right? How is this happening? What are we doing wrong to where this is a thing? Geez, I can't remember the name of the Pokemon, but it was a slow Breloom.
Yep, Breloom.
That was the first Pokemon I went up against, and he was just faster than all of my Pokemon. He would put me to sleep, and then he would just punch my Pokemon to death, and they would still be asleep, and I couldn't do anything about it. And I've learned that Breloom is a fairly slow Pokemon.
So if I recall correctly, that strategy involved Breloom learning a certain move that would need to be passed down from through the hereditary line, right, through breeding. I'm trying to remember that, but if for whatever reason I'm getting this wrong, if you have any hate mail, make sure you send it to onawhim@whimindie.com.
Yeah.
But and it took an embarrassing amount of time to realize how much work Matt put into these games.
Hundreds of hours, easily.
Yeah, hundreds of hours. Mario Kart, Pokemon, Smash Brothers, and it was an amount of time that I was unwilling to put into it. So hence the race for second place. So
I'm just going to catch up, casual players up to speed, right? So there's Pokemon. We were talking about it. We were mentioning it. There's the Pokemon has two values of each Pokemon called Evs and Ivs. EV stands for effort values, and IV stands for intrinsic values. Now, EVs are gained when you defeat wild Pokemon or if you defeat trainer Pokemon, and they're secret values. The game does not tell you outright. Well, I think the later games might, but I thought, Diamond and Pearl didn't. Like if you defeat like a Rattata, right? Your speed EVs will go up, and your Pokemon has a higher opportunities to get speed stats. So, in a turn-based game like Pokemon, speed is in most cases, speed is the most important stat because you want to be able to go first before your opponent, right? Because if you're going second, what's the point, right? You're going to get beaten by your opponent's Pokemon. And I think what Game Freak, the developer, wanted to do with EVs and IVs is they wanted to not make every Pokemon the same, right? If you're catching 2 level 6 Rattatas, they're going to be a little bit different. And I think that's what they designed to do. But in the terms of the metagaming, people are like, okay, I don't want this Pokemon. This Pokemon has really bad intrinsic values. This Pokemon's got really bad speed values, right? And then they use websites like Smoggin University.
Mm-hmm.
They organize all 1,000 Pokemon into these tiers, right? There's underused and overused and not used. I don't know all the tiers off the top of my head, but they use the potential of different Pokemon and rank them that way. And the community goes back and forth like, okay, yeah, I used this Pokemon with this moveset with these EVs, and it could not beat this Pokemon with this moveset with this EVs and IVs. And it's a lot, there's a lot of Pokemon that were kind of, when I stopped playing at the end of Sun and Moon.
Yeah, same here.
And I might get, and I know we're going to talk about Pokemon in a future episode, so I'll save that for that. But I had some works in progress that, I just kind of like you. It's like, I really want to do that. It's got all the right EVs. It's got all the right IVs. I've reset the game multiple times to get this right. But I'm bored. I want to go play another game that doesn't feel like a chore to me. But it's like, well, how much do you want to do to be able to win, right?
And maybe allow me to tease the listener for a future episode, right?
Yeah.
The remasters coming out, these new this whole metagaming thing has been embraced by developers, and we could even make the argument that metagaming has been made easier.
Absolutely. They make it easier every generation. Another thing I didn't mention, I'm sorry, Paul, is that each Pokemon has different natures, and natures have inherent boosts to stats and inherent penalties to stats, right? And that all plays a part in metagaming too. And the newest Pokemon game, I know I haven't played it yet, Sword and Shield. They have a way where you can use items to change your Pokemon's nature. So those Pokemon that you grew up with that, may have not had the right nature or whatever, you can fix, quote unquote, fix them so that they can have the nature to be competitive. And I thought that was one of the good things that they don't make this so punishing and so time consuming.
So would you say this next generation of Pokemon, whatever, I think the Diamond and Pearl remix, whatever they're called.
Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl.
There it is. Just for the heads up, we are not sponsored by Pokemon or Game Freak.
Game Freak. This is the first one Game Freak's not developing. It's being developed by a different company.
Right. Yeah. That is really interesting because now that Game Freak isn't going to be the developer of it. But would you
in the next episode,
would you say this next the direction Pokemon is going, would you say you're excited about it?
I think that Pokemon, I know you have said many times that you've kind of outgrown it, like this isn't your thing. But I think it's more remains to be seen, because there's some things that's like, okay, where are they going with this? Like, with not enough Pokemon in the game, or they took some of them out, and I'm like, okay, are you doing this for a meta reason? Are you doing this for a you don't have time reason? And I have no idea where the series is gonna go. But I think I'll save a lot of my thoughts for that Diamond and Pearl episode.
Okay. So let me ask you this: what are you excited for? Gaming wise?
Jeez. I had this written down. Okay, so Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD. That's the biggest one. That was in the Nintendo Direct a couple of weeks ago. I was never a super Legend of Zelda fan, right? I had a habit of starting a Zelda game and just kind of stopping because I would get lost. I didn't know where to go. And I was 7. I was like, okay, I'm bored. I'm going to play something else. So I never really got into it. I got more into Final Fantasy, which was more like, okay, you're going to go here and you're going to do this and you're going to save the world, right? It was very much you knew exactly where you were going, you knew exactly what you had to do. And 7 to 9-year-old me understood that a lot more. Now that I'm a little bit older, I went back and revisited some Zelda games. Now that, I can always look at the internet if I get lost, right? That's one. But 2, Breath of the Wild. When I played Ocarina of Time and I beat that, I used some guides and I said I wouldn't play Breath of the Wild until I beat Ocarina of Time. So once I beat that, I went to play Breath of the Wild and I was just blown away by how good that game was. It had that whole getting lost Zelda feel. But whenever I got lost, there was always something to do. And that kind of feels like me in real life. And like, and what I mean by that is that I always feel like I have to have something to do. I don't like idle time at all. And Breath of the Wild felt like that. It's like, okay, I'm just going to run into this field. Oh, what? There's it gave you just enough to where if you didn't know where you were going, there was something across that hill or around the corner that you could do, some kind of quest, some kind of dungeon, some kind of temple that you can go into, or some kind of puzzle. And I fell in love with the game. To this day, that's the game I've spent most of my time playing on the Switch, and I have not touched that game in 3 years. And it's still the game with the most amount of playtime. But I just love Breath of the Wild, and it made me want to play some of the other games. So I went back and played Link to the Past, and I liked Link to the Past. I finally finished that one. I went back and played Link's Awakening and beat that. That was pretty fun. And now they said, oh, Skyward Sword had a lot of these things that were refined in Breath of the Wild, like the stamina system and climbing and parachuting down the thing. I was like, okay, yeah. And it's supposed to be the first, it's supposed to be like the Legend of Zelda origin story. It's supposed to be the first one in the timeline. Because Legend of Zelda's games have all these I don't know if you know about it, Paul, like, the Legend of Zelda timeline. Like each game is like all over the place. It's like, okay, if Ganon defeated Zelda 1,000 years ago and the world was covered in water, then this game happens. But if you defeated Ganon in this game and saved the world and you went back to being young Link again, then this game happens. And it's a really convoluted storyline. And I know for the Zelda fans there, I'm trivializing it a bunch, but Skyward Sword is supposed to be before all of that. You know, there's no Zelda baggage, if you will. And it kind of shows the origin of the Master Sword and things like that. So I'm really excited to play that. I skipped it on the Wii and Wii U, and I'm excited to play it on the Switch. I didn't mean to get into a long word vomit.
No. That was quality word vomit right there.
Yeah.
No, that's perfectly fine. It's curious because it's personally the games I find enjoyable, like Skyrim, Mass Effect, have more that Western RPG, but still have that same exploration that where you can explore the wilderness and you come to a fork in the road and you go left, and as opposed to going right, and 10 minutes, you think it's a 10-minute adventure in and out. 5 hours later, you're at the final dungeon boss and you're getting your ass kicked, right? And it's awesome when games, give you an open world, and when a game does that right, you get drawn in. The immersion is so real, and like you said, Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, Skyward Sword, these games exist outside a particular timeline. So they did the Marvel Cinematic Universe before the MCU did it, before Disney got involved, right?
And it's not as important to the MCU to where like, you have to understand all the games up before to understand Breath of the Wild, but you will understand a lot of like hints, right? Like, that was the Temple of Time, but it's in ruins, things like that. It's really subtle. But I know you mentioned Skyrim. I know that's a game that's been out forever. I have it for the Switch. I've had it for the Switch for maybe a year or two, and I haven't had a chance to play through it yet. So I know I saved it for this year. I wanted to play through the pandemic, but now the pandemic's coming to a close, or we're on I don't want to say it's coming to a close. It's kind of on its,
we are rounding the corner.
Slowly moving downward.
Yeah, we're rounding the corner. I think, and now I've truly believed that.
Yeah, now vaccinations are going out and whatnot. But one of my goals this year is to still play through Skyrim and maybe The Witcher. Witcher might be next year, but Skyrim for sure. That's a too important piece of gaming history that I have not touched yet.
I heavily recommend playing The Witcher series. I heavily recommend playing Skyrim. Those Western RPGs that I have a stronger affinity towards. I am not into JRPGs, so and we've discussed that before. That's not my forte, not my taste. But you and Jabari do enjoy JRPGs.
But funny enough, I'm actually looking forward to Mass Effect Trilogy Remaster too, right? Because I never had a chance to play through Mass Effect, right? And when I see Mass Effect, I'm like, oh, okay, I don't want to go back to those old systems to play it. With the, I'm gonna try to get a PS5, and Mass Effect Trilogy Remastered is actually one of those that I don't think I'm going to buy it at full price. I'll probably wait till there's like some kind of sale on it.
You always wait to the sale.
Yeah. Because it's not I'm not really attached to the franchise like you are, but I still want to give it a chance. So when there's maybe a winter sale or something, I'll probably get it for the PS5 then.
Right. And once you do get Mass Effect, you get the remastered edition. I promise I will avoid spoiling it for you as much as possible, because you deserve to go through those games with as little spoilers as possible about characters and decisions. Yeah. And I know how you are about spoilers. So,
All I know is the third ending sucks.
So that's the thing, right? For a lot of people, but there is still a good amount of people, even a majority of people, who enjoyed the ending of Mass Effect 3. And I think I mentioned this a few episodes ago. The older I get, the more entwined I am with game development. Looking back, I realize why decisions were made, what went into those decisions, not to, not validate 23-year-old Paul's feelings, however old I was when that ending came out. I realized
I was crying about Garuda in Final Fantasy 14. You were crying about the Mass Effect 3 ending.
Exactly. We went to Depression IHOP for at midnight or something because of it.
Speaking of Final Fantasy, that's one of the games I'm looking forward to. The new expansion for Final Fantasy 14, Endwalker, that's coming out in fall. It's supposed to be the conclusion of the storyline of Final Fantasy 14 that's been going on since 2010, since I was crying about fighting Garuda way back when. So I'm really excited to see how that's going to unfold. It's going to have the players go to the moon, which for Final Fantasy 4 reference, that was one of the big areas in that game. So that's something I'm really looking forward to.
The more time goes, the more things stay the same, huh, Grover?
Yeah, exactly. New Pokemon Snap.
Yep, that is coming out.
Did you ever play Pokemon Snap?
I sure did.
How did you like it?
It was different. I don't know what I was expecting at the time, but it definitely wasn't Pokemon Yellow. I think it came out before Gold and Silver. So
one of my fondest memories of Pokemon Snap was the Blockbuster was doing a promotion where the pictures you took in the game, you can upload. You take your cartridge to Blockbuster, to this kiosk, and you can actually print the Pokemon Snap pictures out as little stickers. And my mom's favorite Pokemon was Butterfree. She loved Butterfree, right? So I was like, okay, I'll take a picture of Butterfree and we'll get it printed at Blockbuster. So I went to Level, took a perfect like A+ picture of Butterfree. And when we went to the kiosk and we put in Pokemon Snap and we printed it out and we got the sticker, she put it up on the little rear view mirror in the corner. I don't know if you remember that Red Explorer car.
I remember that Red Explorer.
Yeah, it was in that corner of that rear view mirror till we sold the car all those years later. So new Pokemon Snap, they'll bring those memories, and now we can all we can use the Nintendo Switch Share, right, to save those pictures to our computers, and then we can print them out however we want, right? So come a long way since Blockbuster, but I am kind of looking forward to kind of revisiting those memories, and I hope that game has a Butterfree.
It better.
better. Have you ever played Fall Guys, Paul?
No, I have not.
I'm interested. I've not played Fall Guys either. It is coming out on the Switch in the summer, and that's one of the games I'm looking forward to. It's like one of those like. Well, have you heard of it?
Yeah, I've definitely heard of it. It's one of those games that was very successful during the pandemic. It's kind of got that battle royale feel to it, but instead of a battlefield, it's a obstacle course, right? Mm-hmm. And you're just racing each other, trying to survive through the obstacles.
Yeah, I'm excited to get that on the Switch. Because I've kind of hinted like 90% of my gaming is on the Switch. I may come off as a casual,
filthy casual.
Like so, yeah. Most of the times I'm really tired, and when with me traveling between California and Nevada a lot, I'd rather not like, I got to boot up my PC or I got to go on my PS4 through the cloud or something like that. It's like, okay, I can just turn on my Switch. Yeah, just turn on my Switch. So I get most of my gaming on the Switch done. So Fall Guys on the Switch would be great. Bayonetta 3. I'm excited for that, but I don't think it's coming out this year. I can always dream. Bayonetta 1 was really meh to me, but I really enjoyed Bayonetta 2. Bayonetta 2 is the diehard of Christmas games. And I say that because Bayonetta 2 is a Christmas game. It takes place on Christmas. They're shopping for Christmas gifts at the beginning of the game, and then it just turns into demon hunting and all this, sex and gore and all that stuff. But it's a Christmas game.
Killing God with the power of friendship.
Yeah. And it was just, I just really like Bayonetta 2, so I'm excited for Bayonetta 3.
Well, there it is, folks.
Well,
there you have
what
it.
about you, Paul? You never talked about any games you were interested in.
Oh, no. That's fine. I've shared before. I am really looking forward to the Mass Effect Remastered. There aren't really any other games I'm looking forward to as much. I just know Mass Effect will consume what little downtime I'll have when it releases and in the summer months. Yeah. I know that's something I'll enjoy playing through, reliving those memories. Like I know what is coming, but as technology is improving and Let's Players, streamers, right? And I'm watching different people and their experiences, and their experiences are so dissimilar to mine, right? Like some things, they took this character, this party member,
so you're gonna
did something else with them.
Play it a lot differently than you did.
Yeah,
last time.
I plan on playing it differently than I did the first time through.
Oh, speaking of, sorry, one more game because they had just announced this a couple of days ago. Life is Strange. Actually, Paul, you might like that. You might like Life is Strange. Have you ever heard of it?
I've definitely heard of it. It was an indie darling.
Yeah. They're going to be announcing a new Life is Strange at Square Enix Presents next week, and I played through the first one. I loved it. I made a bunch of wrong decisions.
I bet you did.
No regrets. And I bought the second one. I haven't played through it yet, but I'm excited to see where they're going to take that series when they announce the new one coming up.
Yeah, just something, a game that lets players make decisions. It just seems so, attracts players, right? Couldn't imagine why. But yeah, thanks listeners for tuning in. Thank you for listening for this past amount of time. I want to remind all of you that shouts out to Shadoe Trammell, our audio engineer, who will undoubtedly have to sort through my audio problems that I've been having. So Shadoe,
thanks, Shadoe.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Shout out to Lucia Lee for the art.
Thanks, Lucia.
And of course, and Jabari, who is again working behind the scenes, making sure the podcast gets posted in a timely manner. Remember, Tuesdays, 8 p.m.
Thanks, Jabari.
Pacific time. So, and thank you, listener, for tuning in.
Thanks, listener.
Yeah, I love it. Listener, go ahead and give us a rating. Go ahead and subscribe. However you listen to podcasts, we are available. Let us give some feedback. So I hope you thoroughly enjoyed episode 10 of season 2 of the On a Whim podcast. I'm Paul Vela. That's Grover Wimley the Fourth. Y'all have a good one.
Bye.
Keep it nerdy.